What is up, my tribal people? Welcome back to another episode clip of Pree Da Podcast. I just reminded that these are only shortened clips, and if you want to listen to the full episode, make sure you click the first link in the description below. Alternatively, you can type in Pree Da Podcast on all your audio listening platforms. And if you want to keep up with what goes on behind the scenes, make sure you follow all our socials at Pree Da Podcast. Without further ado, catch you guys on the other side. Me and Charlotte and my family both our families have, introduced a new member to the Kayoma clan. Elijah Ovie Wolf Kayoma was born into this world on the 15th of January 2023. So, your boy Midge is a baby daddy now.
You are now listening to Pree Da Podcast with your host Majaro.
What is up, my people? Welcome back to Pree Da Podcast. And before we get going, you already know what I'm going to say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Because we're trying to grow the community. And by sharing this with your friends and family, that goes a long way in helping us do that. Now, let's get into it. For those who follow my Instagram, Pree Da Podcast or my private one, Majaro, I think it's Majaro0161 is like a play on, money, Majaro, put it together, like, you get it, guys. But, you would know over the past month, me and Charlotte and my family both our families have, introduced a new member to the Kayoma clan. Elijah Ovie Wolf Kayoma was born into this world on the 15th of January 2023. So, your boy Midge is a baby daddy now. So I've got a son of my own. We've got a son. He's the latest member of the Pree Da Podcast tribe. And, thank you guys for the well wishes and all the messages and all the gifts you guys have sent, all the flowers, all the cards, all the baby grows, all the nappies, all the baby wipes, all the new stuff that a new parent could ever need. I really appreciate all your love and support. And, thank you guys for being there for not only me and Charlotte, but also now Elijah. So, Jude, you're a father as well, right? So you've got a 4-year-old son. So you've, been through the whole couple of, the whole pregnancy, the whole pregnancy was a thing, then delivery, and obviously the first couple of weeks and couple of months. So when you found out you're having when you found out that your girlfriend or your missus, your wife to be, or your partner was having a baby, or you guys are having a baby or expecting, did you guys find out what the gender was, or did you want it to be a surprise like I did? I was like, I feel like, at least for the first baby, I want it to be a surprise. I don't want to know. I just want it to be like the most special it could be. Because I feel like if you know, it's like, I want it to be like Christmas, essentially. So did you find out, what gender you were having?
Yeah, we found out early on. Just so we could prepare in terms of like what we're buying and the name, stuff like that. So we found out pretty early, to be fair.
Yeah.
Plus, I just wanted to know. I wasn't bothered about all that. So I was like, yeah, just let me know what it is as soon as you can, innit?
Fair enough. Like, for me, like you said, for you, you might not feel like it's special. For me, I just wanted it to be like, this is the one chance I get to be a father for the first time. I'm just like, I just want it to be a quote surprise when the baby's here. Because everyone was saying, oh, it's going to be a girl, all the signs, all the wives' tale. People say, oh, if you're having, if you're sick most of the pregnancy, you're going to have a girl. Or if you got heartburn, you're going to be a baby, it's going to be a baby boy, all the stuff like that, all the mysticism around being pregnant. Oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. For the most, I thought it was going to be a girl. I was just like, yeah, it's going to be a girl. A lot of people saying it's a girl. So I was just going for the most opinionated side. So most people were saying it was a girl. So I was just like, yeah, it's going to be a girl. And then when, Elijah did arrive and I was a boy, I was like, the first thing I said was, wow. The first thing I said was wow, because, I could see his boy parts and I was just like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I was just like, it's a boy. I was like gobsmacked. What was your reaction when you first, saw your baby for the first time?
So obviously it was a water birth, so it was a bit different to the normal birth giving process. So obviously when it came out, they almost had to cut the umbilical cord underneath the water, so I couldn't really see what gender he was. But obviously I already knew in it, but I couldn't really see what was going on. So then when I brought him out, and then he was fine. Yeah, it's just a sick process, to be fair. Like it's so mad how it happens, and it's almost so quick.
Yeah, bro.
It's so quick. You almost don't even have the time to take it in. You're just there watching like what's even going on right now, and then obviously they start to come out of nowhere, and then they're just there.
Yeah, because obviously you're talking. You know, your girlfriend's talking to the baby in their stomach, you know, every other day and saying, oh, he feels like this, or, you know, he feels like that. He's moving this way. Isn't like, you know, Charlotte was like, oh, he's moving this way. He's moving that way. I think he's on the side. He's getting big now. You know, all the, you know, the hurdles of just moving up and down the steps, or the, you know, can you help me get up? You know, all the little help you have to do when they're heavily pregnant. And then for it to just, within a couple of hours, basically, to be in the bed and then quickly, let's go to the hospital, you know, let's break your waters, you know, let's monitor the baby, you know, let's go for a C-section, the baby's out, you know, put his hat on, what's his name, all these things, you're like, right, that's happened real quick. So, what was the first week like for you? Because for me, I wouldn't say it was hectic, but like, a lot happens in that first week. Like you have to let family know you're taking loads of pictures, you're taking videos. I was on job. I was like the cameraman, the photographer, the videographer. You know, I'm making sure everyone's in the picture. I'm making sure I'm videoing everything. The first moments, the first time, you know, the godparents or, you know, the grandparents meet the baby or son. I'm videoing this, I'm videoing that. I need to call this person, I need to call that person. I'm messaging this, I'm messaging that. I'm letting this person know when can we come see him? Relatives come in and, you know, what's your address and everything. It was just a lot of stuff was happening. And thankfully I had, you know, paternity. So I was able to take 2 weeks off work and actually dedicate to just, you know, being a father for the first time and being there for not only Elijah, but Charlotte as well, you know, recovering after the operation. What was it like for you?
Pretty much everything you just said. Obviously, you have a lot of people coming over, but I feel like you're functioning more of adrenaline during that period. So it is a lot, but you don't feel like it's a lot. So you're just doing, you're not even thinking. So learning how to change nappies, vomit, clothes, getting everything sorted, making sure people come to see him, crying, having his first bath, which is a tradition in Nigeria apparently. So my grandma will come and bath him for the first time.
Swear,
it was a lot happening in that first week. Obviously for me that was 4 years ago. I can't really remember exactly what happened, but it was a lot in terms of pictures, friends, families coming over.
And like with loads of people, you know, coming around your baby, everyone wants to know, you know, what's his name, what they're like, X, Y, and Z. Everyone wants to know everything about him, and you know, everyone wants to, you know, give their 2 pence and their advice. Here's your advice. Here's your advice. Take this. Don't do this. Make sure you do that. Make sure you don't do this. Make sure you do this. Feed them this. Feed them that. Like, it feels like everyone, you know, has their own input. But like, one of the things I found was, like, even the midwives, right? Even the midwives, they tell you, oh, breastfeed, make sure you breastfeed, all about breastfeed. But then they don't tell you that when you have a C-section, majority of times, your body is very delayed in producing milk. So as the mother, you're not going to produce milk because your body doesn't know it's not pregnant anymore.
Doesn't know it's giving birth,
Exactly. Yeah. So all the natural hormones that get released to kickstart the production of milk when you have a natural birth just doesn't happen. So your body is basically doing catch up. So for the first couple of days, we didn't know that we weren't feeding Elijah as much as we needed to. You know, some milk was coming out, but it was hard to tell, essentially. And, when we found out the statistics that 60% of births these days are being done through cesarean section, and the midwives aren't telling you, oh, you can try breastfeeding, but, just to give you a heads up, you might not be able to produce the amount of milk he needs. So I think it would be best if you top it up with bottle formula so that you make sure or you know for sure that he's actually eating. But for some reason, that information just wasn't given to us. So we were, when we have like the third visitor or the health visit or, the midwife visit, they're telling you, oh, he's lost, 10% or 14%. No, we need to go to the hospital and, make sure he's getting the right fluids and make sure, he's getting milk. And I'm like, well, if the statistics are this, how come at the start this was never, even the courses that we went on, no one ever mentioned anything about if XY happens when it comes to the cesarean, make sure you have a bottle to top him up at least, right? Just to make sure. There was none of that. It felt like everything was just, let's wait until it gets to a critical position where we, now we have to give you the information. When you could just feed up the information at the start and everything would have been blessed. Was it like an assumption that this is something you should know, or did they just oblivious of the whole? The thing is, I don't even think it's an assumption that you should know, because they just assume breastfeeding, right? But they also know that people don't breastfeed. So they were saying, it's okay if you don't breastfeed, it's okay if you don't breastfeed, don't feel pressure to breastfeed. I know that there's like so many midwives we were talking to. Some said, breastfeeding is the best, try not to, if you can avoid it, don't bottle feed. That's what they were saying. Everything was just, pro breastfeeding. I wouldn't say anti bottle feeding, but it was more, if you can avoid it, avoid it. Best is breast. Breast is best. That's what they said. But if you go through a surgery like that, where statistically this is what happens, how come you're not informing people that you're likely not to be producing enough milk for the baby to sustain itself and it's going to lose weight? Top it up with buttermilk. So that was the one thing where I found out that I was very annoyed with. Like, this shouldn't be this hard to get this information.
It could have been avoided. Yeah.
Facts. So, what would you say? Now we've talked about, people giving advice and how it can be annoying at times. I would say that's my advice, right? The advice is not to take advice. The advice is not to take advice, because at the end of the day, you're the parent. You're the person that, your son, your daughter is going to be relying on. So you're going to inherently know more about their needs than someone else who had a baby 10 years ago, 14 years ago, 18 years ago. And their baby isn't your baby. So you can take advice in terms of the basics, in terms of, I don't know, clothing, I don't know, what time to bath them, or stuff like that.
You have to remember, like, the first 2 weeks, that's when your baby's going to be a sense of the universe, right? And after that, everyone just fades away.
Facts.
Right? So all this advice you're getting is sort of going to last for about 2 weeks, and then first of all, you're not going to remember all of them. And second of all, they're going to stop anyway. So you have to figure it out yourself regardless, right? So in terms of advice, I don't know, just obviously be thankful that they care for the first 2 weeks, and then after that, it is what it is. You have to find your own path in terms of parenting anyway.
Facts. It's one of them where it's a long journey. Obviously, no one's perfect. No parent's perfect. We can all sit here and reflect on how we were being parented. And, we can be like, okay, cool. My dad did this. My dad did that. I feel like this will work best for me going forward with my son or my daughter. So I'm going to take the lessons that I learned from my dad and implement in my parenting style, obviously use my own discretion and things that are going to be working for my circumstances, my, environment. I'm not in Nigeria, so things are very different culturally, in terms of how you're dealing with other parents in school and stuff like that, traditions and stuff like that.
Plus, every child is going to be born with their own personal characteristics and dispositions anyway, so maybe, like, my son's very boisterous, right? He's very, what's the word? he's very boisterous. Let's just go with that, right?
Yeah.
So he might not be as agreeable as maybe if I have another son. He might be more agreeable. So what's going to work for him is not going to work for my other son, or your daughter, or your third child. So I think as a parent, you have to recognize that the kids are going to have their own characteristics anyway. So what you need to parent one way, you have to parent the kid a different way. And obviously, I've only got one child, but the fact that I'm aware of that is going to obviously put me in a better position when I have another one.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. That's a good bit of insight, because I'm very different to my brother, and my brother's very different to my sister. So the way my dad talks to my sister is going to be the way he talks to my brother or me. So, like you said, I feel like you have to be adaptable. Like, especially in the younger years, they might display some characteristics at the start, and then when they get older, they get more mature, and they start to wisen up to certain behaviors, or you start to implement or try to instill some values in them, and they learn from that, and, things progress. So everything's ever changing, like the world. Your baby is like the world. Everything's changing. They're always taking, external sources of information. So you might do your best, but they're out in the world. They're going to go to school. They're going to go to after school club. They're going to play football. They're going to play badminton, netball, or whatever sport, swimming. So those communities, those lessons are going to be learned in those environments. And when they come home, hopefully you have that relationship with them where they can talk to you about things that they're going through, things, when it comes to mental health, potentially, God forbid, bullying, or, all the difficult things that we've had to deal with in our lives as kids or as young adults or even as parents. Hopefully you can have that open and honest discussion with your son or your daughter. And because that's what I feel like, is the best way, just to be open-minded and be flexible and listen to your child and whatever needs they do, and do your best if you can within your means to support them.
Yeah. In terms of that, like, I've always said to my partner, like, she's quite with you in terms of thinking of how to parent. That has a fair approach of, letting him come to me or whatever. But for me, having a son and being a father, for me, especially not having one, so now that Robert showed me what it is, you have to be a man or whatever, and having to learn that myself. It's almost a case of realizing, like, I'm not his friend. Like, I'm his father. Like, it's a very important responsibility to be a father to a son, right? So I can't be his friend in terms of, it's fine, you just do this.
Hey, don't get it twisted. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be a strict parent. My girlfriend's going to be, the confident
with the certain characteristics that I value, the values I have, the traits that I want him to go into the world and portray. So I understand, obviously, using your own experience as a child, and obviously a lot of things, like especially a lot of traumas, are going to get transferred, and it's up to you to stop those traumas from happening. If you can identify them as traumas, first of all. So in terms of, obviously, an African culture hitting your child, that's a culturalistic trait that's been passed on through generations. I was hit growing up, and it's me identifying, saying, okay, maybe let's keep that one there, and
let's park that there.
So for me, it's like identifying that was maybe a traumatic thing that I went through, but I don't see it that way because I saw it as discipline. But obviously in Western society, it's classes,
child abuse,
and traumatic experience and stuff. So maybe pack it off that way and see what avenues we can go down in terms of discipline. Yeah, my son listens to me anyway, so I have no issues with that. But yeah, I feel like for me, I'm not here to be his friend. I'm here to make sure he is able to survive in this world. Because if you go back to hunter-gatherers times, if your son doesn't listen to you and you go hunting, that kid's gonna get killed by the next animal. You know what I'm saying? So as a father, you have to make sure you've trained your son and raised your son to be able to maneuver in today's world and society. So.
Facts. Well, it's been great having you, Jude, on the show. We've talked about a lot about football, a lot about life, a lot about being fathers. It's been a really great episode. I'm really glad you were able to come on. Before we close the show, is there anything you would like to leave the people then with? Is there, where can we find you and what you do? Where can we find your team? Where can we listen to you talk, or advice you can give, or courses you're going to be offering soon? Where can we find you?
Yeah. So in terms of football, you can search Radcliffe FC, Radcliffe Football Club, and then that will be me, who I'm playing for now. In terms of the course, it's not been created yet, but if you wanna subscribe almost before it's created, you can find me on Instagram on JVDE Growth. So JVDEGROWTH on Instagram. And you've seen the process that I'm going through into creating this business almost. And in terms of what I want to leave people, or just keep progressing. Just keep progressing, keep going through life. It's not easy. If no one's saying it's easy, there's no right way of doing it. There's no wrong way of doing it. But as long as you keep getting better and improving, then you're going to be better than you were yesterday. So, yeah.
That's big facts. Well, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast. Hope you've enjoyed listening and viewing it. More stuff to come. You know, we're almost a year old. In 2 weeks' time, in 4 weeks' time, it's going to be the 1 month. Well, it's going to be the 1 year anniversary of Pree Da Podcast. So I might have to do something special for that episode. So thank you guys as ever for your support. I'm your host Majaro. We've enjoyed by Jude today. See you guys soon. Peace.
Said I wake up every morning, pray to God that I'm fixing up. Hope I'm never slipping up. Hear the money calling, need my peace to start getting up. Feeling like I'm blessed, but it came with a bit of luck. Feeling like you stressed, then the tension starts to fill you up. Need an intermission, yeah, they ain't the same lane as us. Come from different sticks, yeah, they're not the same range as us. They cop the pleas and top of teas, they're not hitting range with us. Keep